West Virginia pulls off the 17-6 win in a very exciting pass hat. Well, never mind. 17-6 in a very run-heavy, run-happy game. What a game that was last night. I had a great time attending the game. What is up, everybody? Welcome in to Couz's Corner live stream here. I really botched my opening, by the way. I had something in my head I wanted to do, and when I hit the record button, I completely lost what I wanted to say. But anyway, thank you guys for coming on here. I wanted to jump on here today and do a quick recap of last night's game. So the 17-6 win for West Virginia. As you can see, I've broken out the coonskin cap, which I like to break out anytime there's, something that really positive that happens with West Virginia sports. I broke it out today because I think it deserves to be broken out. And also, I got the shaker that I got at last night's game to celebrate the Mountaineers' big win. They had these in everyone's seats last night at the games. It was pretty cool to see that. Over 60,000 people in that stadium last night. It was a packed house. It was a fantastic atmosphere to see the Mountaineers run through the Pitt Panthers in the 17-6 win. It wasn't a pretty game. It was an ugly game. But, hey, a win is a win, and we'll take it. This program, this state, this fan base needed a win. Coach Brown needed a win. The players needed a win. And like he said, it had been since 2011 was the last time West Virginia was able to defeat Pittsburgh. Now, this was much needed for the fan base. And for any of you who thought that this game didn't mean a lot to Coach Brown or he didn't get it, go back and listen to his post-game press conference. You'll understand that he did. He said last year's game had been weighing on this team and this staff for the last 54 weeks. And you could tell there was a lot of pressure on him, a lot of pressure on the staff, and I'm sure the players as well to go out and get a win in this game. They were able to do that. Like I said, it wasn't pretty, but they were able to overcome some adversity multiple times, actually. The defense stepped up. The defensive secondary, which had been much maligned, they stepped up, made some massive plays. The running game did what we thought it would do, especially with C.J. Donaldson. As you can see with his stats scrolling along the bottom of the screen, 18 carries, 102 yards, over 5 yards a carry, nearly 6 yards a carry, actually. So a great night for him. Nicco Marchiol threw the ball 9 times, completed 6 passes for 60 yards. And yes, I know, not a lot of high-flying offense in this game. It wasn't the type of game we were accustomed to seeing back when Dana Holgorsen was here, but it worked. Nonetheless, he got the win. And if you listen to Coach Brown's post-game press conference, he talked about how, number one, obviously Garrett getting hurt changed a lot of the game and changed the strategy in the game. Because when they brought Nicco in, it really, really limited the playbook. He said he went from having basically a whole notebook worth of plays to having basically a half a sheet of paper. That's the difference in the play sheet and the play calling when the backup quarterback's in, because the backup quarterback only gets 25% of the reps at practice during the week. So they're not really as prepared to play as the first string quarterback. And that's not a Neil Brown thing. That's pretty standard throughout the college game, is my understanding. And then you've got the fact that Nicco's a redshirt freshman, doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but this is twice now in his career he's had to come in when Garrett went down with an injury and come in and lead the team to victory. And he's done it twice now. And so kudos to the young man. Yes, he didn't have to throw the ball a lot, wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but what he was asked to do, he succeeded at it. He had a couple nice runs. One run was huge. It was a third down run. He was able to move the sticks, take a few more minutes off the clock to help seal the game for the Mountaineers with that big win or that big run. Had he not gotten it, they'd have had to punt the ball back to Pitt, and who knows what happens at that point, right? So that was big, and that was one of those RPOs where he made a really good decision to pull it and run it. So good decision there. He did make some good throws. He had a nice ball to Preston Fox on the sideline. That was a really good ball. He put it where only Preston could catch it. I thought that was a good throw. Had the really nice short touchdown pass to Kole Taylor, who also had a pretty good game. And, but yeah, Randy Blue and White with Robert, you were right. He only had to manage the game, and he was able to do that. Now, if he has to play this week and come in and be the guy, he'll be much more prepared because he'll have an entire week of practice to get ready for it. Whereas this past week, he did not. He did not, like I said, he was only getting about 25% of the reps versus Garrett getting 75% of the reps. I don't know the status of Garrett Greene. I've already seen some people asking that question. Neil Brown said he would hope to have an update on Monday. It appears to be maybe an ankle injury, whether it's a high ankle sprain, a regular ankle sprain, who knows? The severity of it, we don't know. But we hope to know more after Neil Brown meets with the media tomorrow, which is Monday. But nonetheless, like I said, it was an ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless. Our defense really stepped up. Let me pull up the team stats real quick, and we'll talk about those. A lot of you may have already seen these, but when you look, you've got neither team did real well on third down. West Virginia was 4 of 13. Pitt was 4 of 12. Or I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Pitt was 4 of 13. West Virginia was 4 of 12. Fourth down, it was 0-2 for Pitt, 1 for 3 for West Virginia. And we remember, guys, that 1 4th-and-1 play that Pitt had, they only had to move the ball. I don't even know if it was a full yard. They may have only had to go a couple inches. And West Virginia was able to push them backwards and prevent them from getting that first down. That was a huge defensive stop in that game. You look at total yards, 211 for each team. So, again, not a lot of high-powered offense here. Just ground and pound, run the football, do what you need to do to win the game. Passing, 81 yards for Pitt, 60 for West Virginia. I don't think I've ever seen a football game where neither team threw for 100 yards. Very, very unusual. Completions, Pitt was 8 of 20. That's Phil Dracovic was 8 of 20. West Virginia was 6 of 11. Nicco was 6 of 9. Garrett was 0 for 2. Yards per pass, 4.1 for Pitt, 5.5 for West Virginia. Interceptions thrown, this right here was the key to the game as well. 3 interceptions for the Mountaineers. 3 takeaways for West Virginia on the day. 0 interceptions thrown for West Virginia's quarterbacks. Rushing, 130 yards for Pitt, 151 yards for West Virginia. But let's remember, of those 130 yards for Pitt, about 63 of them or so came on the first drive of the game. So the rest of the game, they had right around 60 yards rushing, or 60-some yards rushing the entire game after that first drive. So West Virginia's defense stiffened up and really shut down that Pitt running attack, which is, you're taking them out of what they want to do. And if you can take them out of what they want to do, it's a recipe for success. Rushing attempts, 36 for Pitt, 51 for West Virginia. Yards per rush, 3.6 for Pitt, 3 for West Virginia. But really, when you look at C.J. Donaldson, he was 5.7 yards per rush. So he was really the workhorse guy and the one that was getting most of the yards. Jalen Anderson did come in and had some decent runs, but for the most part, it was C.J. Donaldson. Penalties, 9 penalties for 65 yards for Pitt. And the crowd, I'm telling you, the crowd had a lot to do with that. There were several false start penalties in this game. The crowd was electric. They were loud. They were active all night long. I also want to give a shout out real quick. I feel like, and I put this on X earlier, but I feel like West Virginia's athletic director, Ren Baker, I feel like his handprints were all over this game as far as the in-game entertainment, the music, everything. They played Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter, and when it got up to the part where they say "Eat shit, Pitt," they silenced the song so you could hear the crowd saying it louder. It was really cool. And I'm not sure if the old AD would have done that. Maybe he would have. I don't know. But I loved it. And then there was another part later in the game where they had Sweet Caroline playing, and it showed a video of a lady going up to the record player, taking the record out and breaking it and throwing it down, and then the song stopped. It was really cool. Like, basically, stop the music, man. It's done. It's over with. Pitt lost. Turnovers total, 3 for Pitt. West Virginia did have the one fumble that they lost where Nicco fumbled a snap. Again, it was early on for him. Earlier in the game for him, he was probably, I'm sure he was still had some jitters, still a little nervous. So, no big deal. It ended up not hurting us. And then time of possession, 26-47 for Pitt and 33-13 for West Virginia. So, overall, fairly even in most categories, but West Virginia, they made stops when they needed to make stops. Those 3 turnovers were huge. They were made by Malachi Ruffin, Beanie Bishop, and Aubrey Burks, 2 corners and a safety back there. And for all the bad things that have been said about those guys and some of the criticism was fair about the secondary, but myself, I've critiqued them as well, criticized them as well, but they stepped up and made plays. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how poorly Pitt's quarterback played. That one interception, especially the one that I think it was one Beanie Bishop had. Yeah, it was one Beanie Bishop had. He basically threw that ball right into Beanie Bishop's chest. Beanie was basically just standing there, and Phil Dracovic threw it right to him. There wasn't even a Pitt receiver close. I'm not sure what he was thinking. I don't know if a Pitt receiver ran the wrong route. Don't know what happened. But nonetheless, Beanie caught the ball and made a play, and he had a really long run. And I think that's, West Virginia ended up getting points off of that, if I'm not mistaken. But not only did he catch the ball, but he made a play with the ball after he caught it, and so did Aubrey Burks after his interception. Both of those guys took their interceptions a long distance. to really help West Virginia's offense get them in better field position. And then the interception by Malachi Ruffin was just amazing. I mean, he made an absolute great play on the ball. One of the other players tipped it. I don't remember which player it was. They tipped it in the air, and Pitt's receiver was actually in front of Malachi Ruffin, and they both dove for the ball, and Malachi was the one who came up with it. It was pretty cool to watch, especially when you watched it on the replay, and they they showed it in slow motion, and he was able to get his arms under the ball. I mean, it was just really, really good play. Great concentration on the part of Malachi Ruffin. And I just want to give a shout out to him. Guy was a walk-on when he came to West Virginia, I think back in 18 or 19, and has earned himself a scholarship and has now played his way into the starting lineup and is able to compete with Power 5 receivers and show that he deserves to be a Power 5 player and a scholarship player at that. So I feel like Malachi Ruffin, now that he's in the starting lineup, I feel a lot better about our secondary. There's still some growing pains. There's still some things they need to work on. But I'm telling you, you've got to give them a shout out for the way they played last night. They made plays when they had a chance to make plays. Were they perfect? They were not perfect, but they did make plays. And that's all you have to ask of these guys. They did cover a lot better than they normally do. And also want to give a shout out to West Virginia's defensive line. They had they were putting a lot of pressure on Phil Dracovic. Looks like Mountaineer Paul has a chance to get in here with me. I'm gonna send. So yeah, man, come on, jump on, man. I'd love to have you. They don't want to hear me talk the whole time. Go ahead and jump on, brother. But yeah, Mountaineer Paul is going to jump on here with me, guys. So give me a second to get my headphones on so I can hear what Paul has to say. But yeah, just a great performance last night. I know Paul was able to go on and do an immediate reaction show after the game. I obviously was at the game, so I wasn't able to. We were traveling back to our hotel, dealing with traffic and whatnot, and I was exhausted too. So for what it's worth, and I really like to do stuff during the game at times, but man, it was so crowded in that stadium yesterday. There was just no way I would have been able to do a quality video or anything. I mean, it was, guys, there were 61,000 people there last night. It was absolutely packed. And it's the biggest game as far as crowd wise that I've been to since LSU came to Morgantown in 2015, maybe, or 20. Yeah, I think it was 2015 or 2014, maybe, whatever year it was that the LSU came. It may have been 13. Anyway, it was early in Dan Holgerson's tenure when LSU came to Morgantown. But yeah, that's the last really big loud crowd I remember seeing. Or of that. I know at the Tech game, was it 2 years ago when Tech came to Morgantown? I know that was a really good atmosphere as well, but I unfortunately wasn't able to make that game. I was supposed to, but I had been exposed to COVID, and that was during COVID, and I wasn't able to go. So, and yeah, Stephen, West Virginia and BYU were basically the two bright spots for the Big 12 yesterday. It's not rare. We haven't been able to say that much the last 4 years, so it's nice to say that for once. I don't want to put too much on this one game. What's up, man?
What's up?
Glad you're able to join me. I was just getting ready to say, I hate to put too much on this one game because one game, and let's be honest, Pitt doesn't look like they're going to be a very good football team this year. But nonetheless, we won. We won the game. It's a rivalry game. It was a game that was really weighing on the players and the team and the fan base and everybody else. But this team still has a lot of work to do. The secondary, can they play this way against offenses like a Texas Tech, like a TCU? We'll see. Can our front seven keep up the kind of pressure they've been able to get on guys, or was able to get on Dracovic anyway last night? Those are the kind of things I want to see. Can we run the football successfully against those Big 12 teams? I think we can. I think we can run a ball against about anybody, but I don't know that we'll be able to be one-dimensional like we were last night against most teams. Have you heard anything, Paul, about Garrett and his injury? Has there been any updates today?
From everything I've heard, he's probably not going to play Saturday.
Okay.
This is coming from people in the media that I spoke to just 2 hours ago. So said it doesn't look good. It's not season ending. At worst, a 2-week injury. At best, a 1 week injury, So I think, Texas Tech comes in, they're going to be desperate for sure, but they haven't looked like the team everybody thought they were going to be either. So maybe you risk putting Nicco out there for one more game in hopes that Garrett's back for the next game. Because what good is Garrett if he's immobile? That
Right.
that really makes no sense.
No. Yeah, I'm with you.
So
I think with Nicco, I think if Nicco has a whole week to work with the ones,
I do too,
and actually have the full playbook at his disposal, or at least I don't want to say the full playbook. They might not be able to put the full playbook at his disposal, but at least a lot larger piece of it than he had last night. I think he'll do fine.
Yeah, he started out over 3, went and ended the game 6 for 6.
And he even said in his post-game press conference, he's the type of guy who needs reps and he needs time and he needs to get into a rhythm to a degree. And and that I think that showed that throw he made to Preston Fox was a really good throw, man. I don't know if people and that I don't know if you saw Paul last night near the end of the game when we were up and driving, and we were all in the stands kind of wondering, well, is Neal going to just run the clock out here? Is he going to try to score another touchdown? Narduzzi kept calling timeouts with like a minute and a half to go, and I'm thinking, if I'm Neal, I go try to score right here. And he did. They ran a little play where Kole Taylor rolled out like a little out route, and he was wide open. But Nicco was rolling to his right. And I told my wife, I said, had he been a right-handed quarterback, that was a touchdown. Because him being left-handed, he'd have had to stop and turn, and there was a rusher coming right. There was somebody chasing him, and if he'd have stopped to turn, he'd have got sacked, or they'd have knocked the ball away or something.
Yeah.
So he really did
the best thing. Play caller, really.
Yeah, it was an odd play call, honestly. Maybe they didn't intend for him to roll out like he did. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you got to do it to the opposite side, right? I mean, do the same play, but do it the opposite side to the left, right?
Yeah, maybe. Well,
if you're going to run that play.
Yeah, I guess. Makes sense.
Listen, there are plays in the playbook for left-handed quarterbacks to roll right, where they can square their shoulders and make a throw. But it just wasn't the game for that yesterday. It didn't feel like anyway. I don't know. What do you worry about this being like Virginia Tech last year? Do you worry about that?
Sounds like somebody's been listening to earsports.com.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a legit point. It is a legit point. I listened to it as well on my way home this morning or today, and they make a valid point because it kind of does have that feel to it to a degree. Because Pitt does look like a bad team with a bad quarterback. But at the same time,
their defense is way better than Virginia Tech's was, right?
Yes, it is. I think it is. And also, I think Pitt has more talent overall. Yeah, their quarterback play was bad, but I think they have more talent overall than what Virginia Tech had last year. And I also think our defense played better. Because last year, I mean, even though we won the game against Tech, our defense still didn't look very good. Tech was just atrocious, and Grant Wells was not hitting his throws. But our defense, other than the Jacoby Spells pick 6, didn't really make any big plays, right? Well, last night we had 3 big interceptions plus several other big plays like TFLs and the big 4th and 1 stand that they made. I mean, it was more of a 4th and inches. I don't even know if it was a 4-yard they had to go, and our defensive front knocked them backwards. But yeah, it could kind of be that, but at the same time, I don't want to go down that negative path. I want to try to enjoy this, and this kind of gives me hope. But at the same time, deep down, yes, I am still a little bit concerned. I'm not going to lie to you because there were a lot of things last night that I know if we don't get better at, we're still going to struggle in the Big 12. So do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. There's no doubt about it. Like, you think about, we're lucky the 4 teams that we play, that we subbed in. Think about the teams we get to play. Instead of we don't have to play Texas, we don't have to play Kansas, right? Who else do we miss?
We don't play Texas, we don't play Kansas State, we don't play Kansas, and we don't play Iowa State.
Too bad on the Iowa State, but
Well, yeah, but man, their defense is still really good.
Yeah, it'd probably be a slobber knocker.
And I'm not sure we'd be able to score much on them.
It's going to be interesting. I think these four teams, the four games against the newcomers, really could benefit us. I think because we're way deeper than they are. You've seen how many guys we were rotating in and out on defense yesterday. On offensive line, I mean, we played probably 7 offensive linemen yesterday, at least 6. I think we played 7. Malone played. I think Weidman might have played. I'm not sure. Trying to remember who all played. It was extra, but we're deep on the front. We really are on both offensive and defensive fronts. Yeah. We're extremely deep. What about Fator Mulba? Huh?
He had a good game, man.
Man, and I go back to remember what was it over the summer when we got him? I got a hold of Israel Achumba, the left tackle from Penn State, and what did he say? He's the best run defender we have, and he meant that. Even though he wasn't going to start on this Penn State team because he doesn't fit what they do, they have those smaller, speedier defensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
I was really glad to see that kid break out and verify that.
He had 5 total tackles, 2 solos, and a tackle for loss was his total stat line.
Awesome.
What I like about this defense, man, we had I'm counting 1, 2, 20 guys registered tackles in that game. 20.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And I'll tell you, a lot more than I realized.
Yeah, 20 guys. That's a lot. Trey Lathan led with 8. You had Anthony Wilson, Beanie Bishop, and Lee Koba all had 7. Now, these are total tackles, not just solo tackles. Jared Bartlett with 5, Fatorma Mobile with 5, Hershey McLaurin with 5. Mike Lockhart had another good game, 3 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. Tumiwa Duragier, 3 tackles. He had another good game. Sean Martin, 2 tackles. Tyron Bradley, he had the big sack at the end plus the 2 tackles. So and what about that secondary, man? I'll be honest with you. We talked, the criticism, and myself included, has given them, and some of it's been justified because they didn't play well. But man, they stepped up last night. What are your thoughts on the secondary?
Well, I mean, listen. The things that they're learning, right?
Yeah.
The interception opportunities we had at Penn State, we didn't make. Attribute it to first game jitters. Attribute it to big game atmosphere on the road. Whatever you want to say it was. Well, at home, we made those turnovers last night. Beanie Bishop, Aubrey Burks, and Malachi freaking Ruffin, who, to be honest with you, I was scared was in the starting lineup to start that game based off of things I had seen on tape in the past with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a smaller defender and sometimes gets big bodied. Mm-hmm. But man, he played really well last night. We're a zone coverage team. I think we have to get used to that. We are not going to do man-to-man with this team. We don't have guys that you can put on an island and just ask us to basically, man up 1-to-1 whoever. So I think that's who we are on defense.
Speaking of, real quick, I want to get to the super chat. Thank you, Big Aaron, for the $1.99 super chat. He says, West Virginia and all of us fans needed this bad. So important. And by the way, Aaron, I know you're a Deftones guy. If you haven't seen it yet, you have to go online. I said this to Paul the other day. There is a version of Country Roads done in a Deftones style floating around the internet, man. It is really cool. So go check it out. I sent it to Paul. Probably about 2 weeks ago or so, Paul, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Big Aaron, you need to find it, man. Go find it. Country Roads.
He probably already knows about it.
He probably does. But thank you for the super chat, man. Thank you for the support. You guys want to make sure your chat gets read, gets highlighted, and gets seen above all the other chats in the chat room. You can drop a super chat, and I'll be sure to see it. We've got 84 people in here now. Thank you all for coming in. The more people in here, obviously, the harder it is for me to see all the chats and respond. But yeah, I mean, you got to give hats off to Malachi Ruffin. And speaking of him, he took MJ Devonshire to Suplex City, baby. And for any of you wrestling fans, know what I'm talking about. Brock Lesnar likes to take his opponents to Suplex City, and he'll get them in a belly to back suplex. That's exactly what Malachi Ruffin did. Now he had some assistance from Jared Bartlett, but by gosh, they laid him on his butt or on his face. Really, that was really cool to see on that punt
I thought
return.
he was going to get I thought they were going to throw a flag on that because I've seen them throw flags where they pick the guy up and slam him before. I've seen them throw flags for that.
Yeah,
And then I saw one come out, but it was on Pitt.
yeah. Well,
Man, we played a clean game last night.
The players took exception to it. We did. A few penalties. I know CJ's probably going to get his butt chewed out, maybe even have to run or something for taking his helmet off. I get that. That you can't. I get it. He was excited. You can't do that stuff. It can hurt your team. I get it. But man, he played so freaking good last night, man. I'm not going to say anything negative about that kid. He carried his team on his back last night, man, and he absolutely killed it. 5.7 yards a carry. I mean, I know Jalen Anderson had a lot. Jalen Anderson actually had more carries than Donaldson did, but his yards per carry was only like 2 or 3 a carry or something like that. It was pretty low. I don't know what it is.
Two different kind of backs.
They are. Jalen's known for being patient, and
yeah.
I felt like at times last night he wasn't hitting the hole fast enough. CJ Donaldson just hits the ball and goes, and even if there's not a hole there, he creates one because he's so freaking big. He'll just run over you. And
man,
Jalen Anderson can't do that. He has to find a hole. He's more slippery. He has to find a crease and hit the crease. And sometimes he'll wait a minute. Last night the creases weren't always there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where CJ can just carry a guy or two down the field with him for 3 or 4 yards. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to have as big a crease as
Did
Jalen
you
does.
see CJ's press conference today?
I saw it last night actually before I went to bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Loved him answering the phone, talk to his mom in the middle of the press conference.
That was awesome.
But he just lit up when he started talking about, I just love that the first man can't bring me down, he said.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, Craig Edits, where are you, kid? That's a little kid. I don't know if anybody's seen this kid yet. He's like a 13-year-old, but he does an amazing job on the editing side of things for West Virginia. I don't think he obviously doesn't work for him, but I thought, man, there's a soundbite. If you wanted to use one for an edit for a highlight video of CJ, he said I'm pretty sure that I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I just love that the first man can't take me down, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a heck of a soundbite. I would use that.
And he said he's having a blast. He loves the running back position now, which I think is really cool because he had never played it before until he got to West Virginia. So he's really embraced it and fallen in love with that position. We got to give a shout out to PW Riggs, who's a channel member here at Couz's Corner. Y'all see that badge right beside of his name? That means he's a member of the VIP club here. He says, "Hello guys, great game last night. If you guys want to become a Couz's Corner channel member, and members, by the way, also get first. They also take precedent in the chats as well. If you're a paying member, hit the join button and you can become a member as well. And there are other perks that go along with it. But he says, hello, guys. Great game last night. Thank you, Paul, for the support. Speaking of which, I've got to go back and look and see who won the score prediction contest that I did. And get that information and that payout out to the winner.
It looks like you got a Texas Tech guy in your chat room here.
I do. John Kelly says CJ called the O-line the Great Wall of China. I saw that, John. Saw that. Actually, thought about making that the title of my video, but didn't figure people would know what it was talking about. Thanks for we got a Texas Tech fan in the house. He says, wreck 'em. Can't wait for TT versus WV. Morgantown will be tough. Yeah, I'll be at that game too. I can't wait to go up next weekend. And that's another one, Neil Brown. I hope he can get the guys as fired up for that one because he's 0-4 against Texas Tech. So,
well, I'm sure he's going to preach that. You know, I mean, you got to kind of hang on that 0-4 thing. I'll be interested to know what your personal opinion is on the differences, if there is any, better or worse. I'm assuming it'll probably be hard to beat the atmosphere that was there last night. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, I don't know that you'll top it the rest of the year unless we have a really, really good season and we're in we get down.
Right.
I'm trying to think who our best. I don't know, man, because we're not going to have any teams coming to more. We're not playing Oklahoma in Morgantown this year. We have Cincinnati coming to town. We have BYU coming to town. The crowd might get excited for those games because of the newness, newness of BYU, and then the old renewing the old rivalry with Cincy.
Yeah.
Timbo is also a channel member. Thank you, Timbo, for your support here. He says last night game was a game between two horrible coaches. Brown finally played a coach worse than him. Timbo, I respectfully disagree with you, man. I've not, look, I call it like I see it, and I've not been high on Neil Brown all the time, but I felt like last night Neil Brown coached a really good football game. I'll be honest with you. I felt like the game plan he put together was what he had to do to win that game, and that's what he did.
Narduzzi's won 20 games over the last 2 years. Enough said. I mean, he's definitely not a bad coach. Far from that. He coaches the defense, by the way, for Pitt. If you didn't notice, and they're always pretty tough.
Yeah, they're. But yeah, I mean, are they two of the best coaches in the game? No, I'm not going to say that, but But I felt like, and Neil Brown did outcoach him last night. I don't put anything past that. But Neil's made a lot of mistakes in his tenure here. But maybe this is the game where he flips the script, man. And who knows? We'll see. Timbo also says Narduzzi made mistake after mistake. Well, I mean, yeah, he did. But what coach doesn't? I mean, his first mistake was not taking Dracovic out of the football game. I mean,
well, he doubled down on that last night in his press conference. He said he's still not taking him out.
Is Kristen Vigil that bad?
Said that. No, he said that everybody wants to point the finger at Phil Dracovic. He said the pass rush got home all night long. He said, I'd like to see any quarterback go back there and play football the way that their pass rush was getting home.
Neil even made a comment about that. Neil even said, I know everybody's going to point the finger at their quarterback, but he said it wasn't all on him. He said we were able to get pressure on him about all night, which is what they wanted to do. So
one thing you may not have heard that was on TV, Couz, they said Jerkovic got sacked. Jerkovic, I always call him Jerkovic or Jerkovic, but he got sacked more than any quarterback in the entire nation last year at Boston College. And a lot of people feel like that he is possibly permanently messed up, like shell-shocked.
Can you repeat that again now, the first part of that?
He was sacked more than any quarterback in America by the numbers last year at Boston College. And a lot of people feel like he's shell-shocked, that he got hit so much. Kind of like David Carr. It happened to David Carr in Houston. It's happened to Joey Harrington with the Detroit Lions. It happens. When you get hit in the mouth because you have a bad offensive line, that hurts, man. And you got, you don't want to feel that again. Some guys, it's easy to take one in the mouth every now and then. But when it's happening all game long over the course of an entire season, that messes a guy's mental up. And I think that's what happened to him because last night he was
and has he had any concussions too? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. True. If he has, it may make it even harder to overcome that.
He played.
John. Yeah, Jaheim did play. I wanted to address that. He did. He ran. I don't know if he ran the ball. Yeah, he did run it. Well, I think they threw him a ball. I don't think he had any carries last night. Let me look at the stat sheet again. Yeah, he did. He carried. No, he didn't carry it any. He had I don't think this is accurate. I'm pretty sure he got the ball at least one time. I thought he did. ESPN doesn't accredit him with a carry or a reception, but I thought he got the ball. Maybe I'm wrong.
I know he was in.
Yeah, I did see him come on the field a couple times. So he definitely played. And Rodney Gallagher played. Traylon Ray was in the game a few times. Last night was not a fun game for wide receivers. I can tell you. But I'm sure they're all team guys, and they were. I mean, heck, you saw Rodney Gallagher celebrating with his teammates. He was having a blast. So they're all team guys, and they wanted to win the game first and foremost. But I'm sure they were. I'm sure they would have liked to have more balls thrown their way. But that was just like Coach Brown said in his presser. He said, I had to scrap the game plan. Number one, my quarterback got hurt, and number two, Pitt was not Pitt lined up against them differently than he envisioned them. He said Pitt was doing some different things. They were in a 4-3 scheme, which he didn't anticipate them getting into, and it changed things a little bit. So he had to make adjustments, which is another thing I got to give him credit for. What's one of the complaints been against Neal Brown since he's been here? That he doesn't make in-game adjustments. Last night he made a huge in-game adjustment. He basically changed his entire game plan right in the middle of the game, and it worked. And he basically said, to go back to my thumbnail on the video, he said, I'm going to give the ball to number 4, and I'm going to dare you to stop it, Pitt. And Pitt was not able to stop him. I mean,
yeah.
And got it. And we've been on here 36 minutes now, and I have not one time given credit to the offensive line. Got to give those guys credit. They pushed Pitt's D-line around all night last night, man, especially in the run game.
About to hear Narduzzi tell it. He said it wasn't because of the offensive line. He said it was the things that they were doing wrong that was the reason. Seriously.
Well, yeah.
He believes that we shouldn't have got the yards that we got. It's exactly what he said.
Well, most
coaches got the yards.
In his defense, though, most coaches feel that way. Most coaches feel that if their guys do things right, they're not going to get beat. That's how most coaches are.
One of the most I'm glad you brought that up. One of the most infuriating things in the world to me is how coaches never bring up, okay, let's say you're technically sound and your gap sound, but what if that man's just better than your man? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just get physically, you can't beat the guy in front of you. Then what? Why don't coaches ever say anything like, sometimes you're just not as good. You never hear a coach say that, though.
Coach Brown has said now he'll never say they're better than my guys, but he will say, like when we played Penn State. I mean, he talked those guys up ad nauseum almost.
Yeah, he made this blanket statement like they're a better football team. Yeah.
He talked about how they had 9 guys that would get drafted. He talked about those 2 elite pass rushers they had on the edges. Just a couple examples. And would he have done that for Pitt? Would he have done that for Pitt? I don't know, because they're a rival. Maybe he didn't want to talk them up. I don't know.
Right.
But he did defend Phil Dracovic, though, so he did do that much.
He definitely did. He said, he said it. And I understand Dracovic did have some, he hit a bad game, obviously. 8 for 23 picks. It's almost as bad as it gets. But I don't know. He's going to be out there next week, unless he's playing games with the next team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it ain't all Dracovic's fault, but dude, I'm telling you, that interception he threw to Beanie Bishop, he was not pressured on that ball. He just flat out threw it to the wrong team. I mean, he hit Beanie Bishop right in the numbers with that ball. Right. And there was no pressure, at least not when he threw it. Maybe he, from pressure he had gotten earlier in the game was like you said, maybe he was a little bit rattled, or even from last week's game or past games, whatever. But he just flat out threw it to the wrong team. I mean, and Beanie Bishop did what he needed to do. He caught the ball and then made a heck of a play after he caught it. So I don't want to. What I don't want to get hung on is I don't want to make Phil Dracovic's bad play make it appear that our D-backs didn't do the right thing, because they did. Because they very easily could have dropped the ball, or when they caught it, they didn't have to take it back for. Matter of fact, let me look at the yardage on those.
Yeah, but they had 2 really, really good returns. By the way, Aubrey Burks is so slippery when he returned. From what I've seen, I wouldn't mind seeing him on punt or kick return. Now he's your best defensive player, arguably. Maybe that's why. Same thing with Beanie Bishop. It scares me that he's back there, because what if you lose him? Yeah, I guess you can't always coach scared, but
Beanie Bishop's return was for 40 yards, and Aubrey Burks' was 26 yards.
Aubrey seemed longer than that.
PW Riggs, channel member here, he says Brown does tell it when we don't win the 50-50 balls. Yeah, but again, I think back to Paul's point, I think he's referring to what we did wrong versus what the other team did right, which is what a lot of coaches will do. But again, I think it just falls back. I think coaches are so they have so much tunnel vision, because they spend so much time trying to get their guys to do things right that's what they're always focused on. So that's just kind of their brain. I don't think they intentionally are taking anything away from the other team. It's just that they're so focused on our guys doing what they need to do that's kind of their brain automatically just goes to that answer, you know?
That's a great point. It really is.
Craig Edits says he appreciates the recommendation, guys.
No
Thank you,
problem,
Craig.
man. Hey, Craig, grab that CJ soundbite and throw it in a video, bro. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but where him talking about the first guy can't take him down. Just a suggestion, man. I'm no Craig Edits, but I think that would sound cool.
But yeah, Jim Heim said he was glad we won, but the game was definitely closer than the score. I mean, it never really, until they got down to like 2-3 minutes left in the game, I never really felt comfortable because all it would take was one pick six or a fumble, a scoop and score, anything to get them right back in the game and make it a one-score game again. WVU going deep says Bishop was covering a guy going deep, but came off him when he saw the pass in the air. Actually, very sharp play on his part.
Right.
It was, but there was no Pitt receiver close to Beanie Bishop when he caught the ball. The ball wasn't in. I don't know whether the receiver he was covering may have been deep. So Beanie did make a good play on the ball. That's what I say. These things are not, I guess, mutually exclusive. Is it the right term here? Field Dracovic made a bad play, and Beanie Bishop made a good play all at the same time.
Right. We don't know what the receiver was supposed to do. Maybe he was supposed to be where the ball was, right?
Right.
That's another thing. You never know. As fans, we're never going to know what that route was.
Mm-hmm. It's a big if, John. He didn't. And one of the reasons he didn't is because our defense was in his face all night. So
you're the one that predicted 27-24 all week, Bub. Why are you stuck on it again?
Me or him?
Him. Christopher.
Yeah, I predicted that too, but I predicted for us to win 27-24. I did not anticipate this being a 17-6 game, but again,
you seen what I picked. I picked 35-21.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate Garrett Greene getting injured. I didn't, and I didn't anticipate Dracovic to play as bad as he did either. I thought he would turn it around because he played better in the second half of the Cincy game. Mm-hmm. And they played better as a team in the second half of that game. So I thought, maybe they've started turning things in the right direction. And I thought they'd come out this week and play a lot better. But
right.
And Pitt's defense didn't play bad, guys. I mean, they still held us to 211 yards of offense.
Yeah.
Our
defensive rankings got to be getting low now, doesn't it? We had one bad week against Penn State, and that wasn't. I mean, I've seen us give up 600-700 yards in a game before. I think we gave up 450 to Penn State, something like that. 325 passing, like 150 rushing, something like that. So, I mean, what we give up to Paranthus last week, 200 yards.
Yeah.
So, and then you look last night, what we give up? 80?
Less than 81.
So don't look now, but go look at the defensive pass rankings in the country and see where West Virginia's at. Based off these three games, I'm going to say we're probably top 75, maybe.
I'm also looking forward to seeing the Pro Football Focus scores from that last night's game too.
That should be out already, shouldn't it?
Probably so. I haven't had a chance to look yet. Pass was overthrown to another guy towards sideline. Bishop got eyes on the ball and got to the ball, made it look easy, but it's all about the eyes. That's not bad. WV football going deep. And that is the one thing Brown talked about they needed to correct were their eyes. But I don't think Bishop's ever been the issue. I think he's been playing pretty well from the get-go. It's been the other guys, and I don't, I know Brown won't call guys out and the coaches won't, but I can. And I'm not going to be disrespectful to the guy, but let's face it, Andrew Wilson Lamp was a problem. He was not playing well at all, and obviously Malachi Ruffin starts in his place last night, and they look like a different unit back there. So
what's going on with Jacoby Spells? Have we heard anything? I
don't know, man. Only thing I've heard Coach Brown say is that he's just not ready yet. I don't know. That's all I've heard him say.
But I mean, he wasn't really not ready. I mean, he played well at times last year. You know what
But
I
he
mean?
also, yeah, he did at times, but he was also in the wrong place a lot, they said.
I don't know. Maybe they did play a lot, some man last year. Maybe he was better at better man corner than his own corner. I'm not sure. I'll tell you this though, had I'm telling you, Anthony Wilson's a tackling machine. That's what I labeled my video whenever he committed to us, tackling machine. He struggles in pass coverage. Kanata Mumpfield absolutely destroyed him on an outside in post last night. And had he not grabbed his face mask, assuming Jurkovec made the throw, which would have been wide open, touchdown. He's vulnerable back there, one-on-one.
If that's the play I'm thinking about, and it may not be the same play. The play I'm thinking about, we got a face mask called on us, and it was on the opposite side of the field of where the play took place. But I think that was Benny Bishop that did that one. I think.
Yeah, no, this was Anthony Wilson. He just happened to get Pitt schemed it up great. They got Mumpfield lined up in the slot, and it was right up against, his name just slipped my mind. But what's his name? I was just talking about him.
Jacoby Spells? Anthony Wilson?
Anthony Wilson. Brain fart. And then he cut it on a post, and to keep him from getting open, Wilson literally just grabbed his face mask and tore him to the ground to prevent him from getting open. It was talked about for like a minute and a half in the game.
Yeah. And Chris, to answer your question, you are correct. Pitt did not score any points in the second half. West Virginia scored 10. It was a 7-6 game at halftime. And there is a petition apparently to go around to keep those helmets as their permanent helmets. I liked them. I can tell you they looked sharp last night. That uniform was awesome. I loved it.
I could take or leave the stripes on the pants, but I liked it.
Yeah, I'm not really. I know a lot of people love the stripes. I'm not a huge stripe guy either. But I can take it. I mean, it's if they keep them, no big. I'm not. I don't
imagine what the opposite would look like.
I just want to win the football game. I don't give a crap what we're wearing. If you want my honest opinion, but
right. But the kids, the recruits,
they do care. Yeah, I know that's one reason when I see fans complaining about uniforms, it ticks me off because I'm like, we're not the ones who have to wear them.
Yeah.
Let the kids make those decisions. Phil Mahood says the defense is improving. Now the offense has to evolve, especially our passing game. Agreed. Phil wants the stripes on the helmets.
Gosh, that's completely against tradition there. I was wanting to read what he said. Sorry. I couldn't read it.
Y'all's pass rush is good, like they say. Then it'll be a long night for us. Our O-line is spotty, and we have a QB controversy going on between Shuck and Morton. Yeah, I got to dig into that more because I've got a couple Texas Tech preview shows coming up next week, and I'm going to have to go back and watch some Texas. I haven't watched one Texas Tech snap this year, so I've got to go back and watch some tape. But I did hear about that.
I'm a big Baron Morton fan.
Yeah, I've never been a
big Baron Morton fan.
I've never been a big fan of Tyler. I mean, Tyler Shuck, his record's good, or at least it was going into this year. But I don't know how much of that was him or how much of it was what he had around him. I don't know.
You know what might be the weirdest stat in that game, Couz?
What's that?
We probably played a backup quarterback every single year that we play Texas Tech.
And we always lose.
Place. Yeah.
Which, if we got to play a backup quarterback, it's not a good omen based on past history. Jonathan Baker says he'd love to have some black jerseys with the gold WVN stripes. That would be sharp. I'd like that. I believe I could live with that. I like the black and gray stuff. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. I think it looks sharp. What does BPA? I really would like to dig. I'd really like to watch Texas Tech on tape a little bit first before I answer that. But they've just got to run a foot. They got to do what they've been doing. They got to run the football well, and they got to stop the run. And their secondary has to be. They're going to give up some pass yards against Texas Tech because of that Keatley offense. but they've got to be good enough and get, if they can get a couple takeaways like they did last night, that'll definitely help. But I've been saying since the beginning of the season or even before the season, West Virginia's key to being good this year is running the football, winning the time of possession. That's, to me, is how they win games. And to me, last night proved that. I mean, now the key is, can they keep it up? And then, of course, in order to win time of possession, you've got to have turnovers, meaning forced turnovers on defense, and you've got to run the ball well. Those are the two things West Virginia has got to do this year to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're gonna employ a really quick passing game, in my opinion. Even though Tech goes down the field, at least in the past they have, I think based on the way our defense has grown and what they've grown into at this point, if I were an offensive coordinator, and by far I'm not an offensive coordinator, but I do know a little bit, I would employ a quick passing game against us. Had Pitt done that yesterday, I truly believe that it could have affected the outcome of the game. Had they gone quick passing a little bit. I mean, I think he was capable of making some passes to the boundary, some checkdowns. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe that's why they didn't. But I think Narduzzi's ego got caught up in that game a little bit last night, and I think it made him mad that he was getting pushed around by a Big 12 West Virginia team. And he really, he wore it on his sleeve after the game. I personally believe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, he's been adamant. He's been adamant that he wants to be a run first team. That's his MO. That's the reason he got rid of Mark Whipple, because Mark Whipple threw the ball too much.
Yep.
I think that was probably not the greatest decision in the world, but that's another discussion for another day. But he's defensive coaches don't like those offenses that pass the ball around all the time. That's just, they don't, because they know what it's like. Correct. It makes it harder for them at practice, and for multiple reasons that I actually did a video on one time. But I don't want to go in. Yeah, I did. I tied it into West Virginia and why I think why I thought running the football was key to winning, because it makes it easier on your defense and all that. But it's about the balance in the defense and the offense, basically. And it's why air raid defensive coordinators on air raid teams don't typically like it, because they need the running game to balance and help their defense. But here are the grades. The grades are out. Here are the top 5 offensive performers from last night. C.J. Donaldson had a PFF of 75. Traylon Davis had a 69.9. Kole Taylor, 66.9. Zach Frazier, 66.8. And Doug Nestor, a 66.8. Defensive players. Patorma Mulba, 79.8. Trey Lathan, 78.6. Marcus Floyd, 76.3. Beanie Bishop, 74.1. Malachi Ruffin, 73.2. Tomowa Duragier, 70. Anthony Wilson, 68.8. Hershey McLaurin, 66.3. Aubrey Burks, 65.4. I saw somebody ask specifically about Sean Martin. He was actually one of the worst performers according to PFF. Now, this is PFF grades. This isn't necessarily saying they played bad or good. This is just PFF grades. Sean Martin had a 63.3. So it's not terrible. Lee Koba had the lowest, believe it or not, at 43.8. Yeah. So take that for what it's worth.
The way PFF works, if anybody doesn't know, is the way I best explain it is from the quarterback position. And they do this for all players. So when a quarterback throws the ball, the protection is a part of it. The route and the route running is a part of it. The ball placement is a part of it. The potential catch or dropping of the ball is a part of it. The interception's a part of it. The dropped interception is a part of it. They grade every single one of those things. Let's say a ball gets tipped off a defender's hands and it's still caught. Well, on the stat sheet, that just looks like a completion for the quarterback. But it was a dangerous throw that most likely gets picked more often than it does not. And so that would actually be a negative play to PFF. And similarly, that's how they grade all offensive and defensive players. Let's say you misfit your gap or whatever. and you still happen to make a tackle for loss, well, they'll grade that you misfit your gap into that tackle for loss. And so it's a very data and analytical driven type thing.
Yeah.
It's only part of the grades that you give people, in my opinion. I take it and I can take it into consideration, but it's not everything, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big Aaron, thank you for that, man. Thank you for the reminder. And first off, thank you for the super chat. He says over 100 people on here. Paul, shout out your channel. Go for it, Paul. I forgot to have you do that, brother.
Oh, that's all right. I think sometimes I just assume that people know, but it's probably not the right thing to be doing. Mountaineer Paul talks football. Right here on YouTube. Subscribing is free. I'll be doing memberships as soon as I can figure out how to do it. I've had a lot of people asking about memberships. Need to get that figured out probably, but talk about the Big 12, just like very similar channel to Couz, and he and I work together on a lot of different things. We also have a basketball channel that we share called Hoops from the Hills. So the two channels, if you like this kind of content, Mountaineer Paul talks football on YouTube and Hoops from the Hills. Thanks, Big Aaron.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that, man. And thanks again for the super chat. You guys, like he said, there's over 100 people on here, and it's impossible for me to see every comment and read every comment. So if you want to make sure yours gets seen, if you drop a super chat like Aaron did, it highlights it for me, and I'll see it in the chat box. And you'll get, obviously, because you paid, you'll get to the top of the list as well. I did see a comment about that I wanted. I think it was Phil Mahood mentioned, about the Pat White happened with Pat White back in 2005 when Bednarik got hurt. Pat White comes to the game, and
yeah,
we got history. We all know what happened, right?
Right.
History was made. Well, I had the exact same thought last night when Garrett went down. Nicco came in, and I thought we were losing 3-0, and I thought, man, could this be another Pat White moment? It didn't turn out to be that quite like that, obviously. We still won the game, but he didn't go out and. Pat White came in and looked like freaking Major Harris, but they're two different types of quarterbacks, and Neil Brown's a different type of coach, runs a different type of scheme, so it's not really a great comparison. But it's still not too late.
Opportunities.
Let's say Nicco comes now. If Nicco comes out next week, let's assume Garrett's not playing next week. Nicco gets a start and he comes out and balls out and throws for 300 yards. Then we might can say
you got a competition.
Yeah,
yeah,
potentially a Pat White moment. Just because it doesn't happen in the same game doesn't mean it couldn't be the next similar situation.
Right. Like you said, he only got 9 opportunities to throw the ball. He started out over 3. He was obviously rattled at first, and then he ended the game 6 for 6. Right?
Yes,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
yes. That's as good as he could have done with the running play.
Once he got comfortable, the game slowed down a little bit. He got the jitters out, so to speak. Things slowed down. Ears Nation's on here. Thanks, Ears Nation. Has a really great. First off, he has a website. Go check it out, earsnation.com.
Great website.
And he's very active on X. But Ears Nation says early in the game we punted and downed it at the 1 or 2 yard line. Ruffin had went into the end zone, came back out and down the ball. Isn't that a touchback? I honestly don't know the answer to that, Ears Nation. I know the NFL rules and college rules are not necessarily the same on a touchback, is my understanding. And I think as long as the ball does not go to the end zone, it's still a touchback, I think. But I'd have to look that up. But it's a great question.
In college, they're allowed to be in the end zone. I'm pretty sure.
As long as the ball's not.
As long as the ball's not, yeah. Okay. Even, they can even be in the end zone and slap it, back over top of the goal line. I've seen that before. But it's honestly not something I've ever actually looked up the rule on Ears Sports or Ears Nation. Good question. I didn't really think much thought. That was a big play in the game. That basically eliminated an offensive series for them.
Says he was too lazy to look it up.
I honestly think it's not a touchback. If you were gonna, if you asked me to lay money on it, I would lean heavily towards. It was not a touchback because he established. He went into the end zone, came back out and established, then caught the ball. So I think it's good. It's not like going out of bounds and catching it legal touching.
Yeah. Guys, as you can see scrolling along the bottom of the screen, I have my club level VIP members here at Couz's Corner. If you want to be a club level member, that's level 2, by the way, the $4.99 a month level. There are perks that go along with it, including taking precedent in the chats, taking precedent in comments, those types of things, as well as a few other perks. There's also a pub level, which is $2.99 a month. All you have to do is hit the join button. That's an easy way to support the channel if you want to do that and help me help what I do here if you like my work. Keep Chopping says Neil Brown deserves a ton of credit. This team looks improved. They do look improved. And I are they perfect or where we want them to be yet? No, they're not. But hey, they just beat our biggest rival at home on a Saturday night on national television. One of only two wins against what I'll call respectable competition in the Big 12 yesterday. Well, if you take Oklahoma and Texas out of the equation, I know Oklahoma and Texas fans might get mad at this, but I don't really even consider them Big 12 anymore, to be honest. I consider them SEC to a degree, but in my brain, I've kind of already moved on. But I kind of consider Colorado part of the Big 12 already. You know what I mean? And Utah. But no, other than Texas and Oklahoma, West Virginia and BYU beat Arkansas and West Virginia beat Pitt. 2 respectable wins. The rest of the Big 12 didn't look so good yesterday.
Right. Is that a Rutgers sign right there? Is that what that is?
I was going to ask the same question.
Is that Greg Schiano's? Is that his thing? Keep chopping? Is that what that is? I'm just trying to take a guess. That sounds like something Schiano would do. Keep chopping wood.
Yeah.
Just curious.
And Chris, you are right. He was not in the end zone when he downed it, but I think Ears Nation's question was he didn't think he was allowed to go into the end zone and come out and then down it. But I really don't know the rule, to be honest. No, that's Mel Tucker. He must be answering somebody in the chat. Says this team has cleaned up the penalties. We have always been a highly penalized team, even before Neil was here. This year they have cut those down significantly. Yeah, and that's one of the things Coach Brown wanted to focus on in the offseason was playing clean, smart football. It was something they needed to improve on, and they have so far. So you've got to give them credit for that. And Keep Chopping said, yes, it is a saying that Schiano uses.
That was a total guess.
Yeah.
It just sounds like something Schiano would do.
It looked like a Rutgers logo. So that was yeah, you did a good job of putting 2 and 2 together there, Paul.
It makes me laugh.
Phil Mahood says, has anyone seen any info from Pete Thamel about a rift between Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy? No, I have not, Phil Mahood, but I will be sure to look that up as soon as this show's over because that sounds like, number one, something I'd be interested in, and 2, it might even be a show topic since I'm a Big 12 channel here. Might be something I need to, and I've got – go ahead.
Kansas had a win yesterday, too. I just thought I'd point that out.
Who they beat?
0-3 Nevada. 31-24. 2 MAC teams got wins over Big 12 teams yesterday, and Miami of Ohio and Ohio Bobcats over Iowa State and Cincinnati. Oklahoma dominated Tulsa. Texas eventually pulled away from Wyoming. TCU dominated Daniel Holgerson 36-13. And Mizzou, obviously, with a 61-yard walk-off, which is wild.
I didn't even see that.
Obviously, I
was in Morgantown, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Missouri
that's
beat
how
Kansas
they won?
State on a 61-yard walk-off.
I did not know that. Wow.
John Kurtz was there live, man.
Wow. I bet he was sick to his stomach.
Yeah.
Because that's a big rivalry. That's a rivalry game. That's a rivalry game for them anyway.
Oh yeah. And he talked a bunch of shit going into that game.
I'm sure he did.
You know, I love Kurtz, you know.
Do too.
But he ate a little crow afterwards, as we all have in the past.
Yep. But isn't it nice when you're the one giving the crow and not eating it?
Heck yeah, man. You don't think I don't see what's waffle in the chat room today, do you?
It's a good point.
Guys like that, I'm like Dion. I got a receipt book. I'll be handing out them receipts.
Speaking of that, they barely beat Colorado State yesterday.
Yeah.
Their fans stormed the field afterwards. That's a little bit ridiculous. if you ask me.
They just haven't won in so long. I'm just letting them Colorado people have their flowers because it's not like act like you've been here before. It's been 30 years.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. But it's Colorado State, man. It'd be different if they beat a Power 5 team or, you know what I mean?
Game day was there. I just think it got everybody hyped up.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
Interesting on the Pete Thamel thing.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
I mean, look, South Alabama destroyed Oklahoma State yesterday. And Gundy has been very adamant about the NIL thing, paying players, and it's not something he's a fan of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder if, because he has kind of backed into this acceptance of NIL and paying players and all that whole thing, not saying he doesn't want to, but most coaches aren't a fan of it, really, even though they may not go vocal. Gundy's the kind of guy that if you ask him, he's going to tell you. He might be the most honest and open coach outside of him and Dion are like very similar in that they'll just speak their mind. Gets himself into trouble. Well, the thing about in the past, Gundy has had those wins to back up that mouth. And now he's just got the mouth. It's not good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for a change of scenery for Gundy, Yeah,
you never know. I don't know that he'll go anywhere else.
Maybe not. I mean, he would be great anywhere.
Well, one time I would have taken him in Morgantown, but if he's not going to embrace the new way of doing things, we don't need him.
Well, sometimes it takes getting fired from a place you've basically they'll build a statue of him someday. It may not be now because of everything that's going on, but I mean, he built that place, right? I mean, there have been other guys there that coached that did okay at times, but he really turned them into the modern day.
Yeah, I'm looking at Pete Thamel's Twitter or X account right now, and I see nothing on there so far about Oklahoma State. Now, I did see, I'm kind of out of the loop where I was, at the game.
You got to be careful getting that stuff from Facebook.
Did you see that Travis Hunter might be out a while? Colorado.
Really? I hate to hear that.
Did you see that hit? Did you see that hit he took yesterday in the game?
No, I didn't see it. I fell asleep watching the game.
Go to Pete Thamel's X account, and you'll see it.
Okay.
Dude. He got absolutely drilled. It was a flag too. They threw a flag because he was a defenseless player. They come up and just put a shoulder right in his. I mean, and they take him to the hospital afterwards. It was that bad. So he's going to be out a game or two.
Yeah.
Phil Mahood said he would take him at West Virginia because all he does is win. That's true, but can he win in today's climate? It's like Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Is he going to be able to keep winning like he has? Considering he won't take guys out of the portal, I just don't see how in today's time you can win that way.
The evaluation of talent is just different. Evaluating talent that'll fit your scheme amongst players that are basically already developed and taking a player that is brand new, that doesn't have any tendencies, that doesn't have any bad coaching, and developing them into your program and what you do are two totally different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And some coaches are falling by the wayside as a result of that because they're not able to do it. Coach Huggins was able to do it, but it took a few years, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, I think Gundy and Dabo are guys that you're used to recruiting these kids and with a blank slate, making them what you want, man. It's just not the same.
Yeah. Chris D says, I'm a man, I'm 40.
He's 50. I know, I get the quote. I remember when he turned 50, the headline was Mike Gundy is still a man, but now he's 50 or something like that.
And Mountaineer guy, this is a great point. He says, hope we can take advantage of how weak the Big 12 is this season. It's very winnable. Absolutely.
Well,
there's not a game on our schedule outside of maybe Oklahoma that West Virginia shouldn't be able to win. In all honesty. And I don't know that we can't beat Oklahoma. Not saying it's likely, but they're not unbeatable.
If Dylan Gabriel just happens not to play that game, we got a great shot.
Keep chopping says Colorado tickets are like $400 plus.
Yeah.
People want the full experience at that price. Logic says you don't storm the field against CSU, but I guess his point is logic goes out the window when you're paying $400 a ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Keel says Dabo don't need portal. He recruits 4 and 5 stars. Yes, Stephen, but so does Alabama, so does Florida State, so does Texas, so does Texas A&M, and they also use the portal. That's the problem. Those 4 and 5 star guys, if he's not able to keep them on the team for 4 years, why is it going to matter? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you look at DJ Uyunglele balling out over at Oregon State. In hindsight, does it look good that Cade Klubnik's your guy, or would you rather have Uyunglele? I'd rather have DJ. You know, but it's maybe in 2 years it doesn't look like that. But
a perfect cracker says Mike Gundy is going to bring his brother Kale to coach after OU leaves the Big 12. That's the rumor in the state of Oklahoma. Kale is a hell of a recruiter in OC. Yeah, I actually thought he would do it this year, to be honest. I don't know why Oklahoma can't be out of the league. Or I don't see why it matters that they're still in the league. I mean, unless he just doesn't want to coach against them. I don't know. But
Oklahoma State got sacked 4 times. Oh, sorry. I thought
that's okay. No, that's good.
They got sacked 4 times yesterday by South Alabama. You know, I mean, maybe South Alabama ends up being a really good team, and I'll tell you what, they looked really good yesterday. Just the eye test. They've got a quarterback that I personally would love to have. Man, he can sling it. Oh my God! But you know that these group of 5 coaches are really taking advantage of the portal. And I was listening to that game yesterday a little bit. They have like 5 or 6 Power 5 guys on each side of the ball that transferred in. It's changed football. And you look at these losses like, how could Oklahoma State lose to South Alabama? And then you look, similar when we played Duquesne, Taj Butts is a guy that started in the SEC or played in the SEC anyway. I don't know if he started at Missouri or not. Those players are out there everywhere, you know, and I think that's playing a huge factor in a lot of these upsets that we just aren't considering. We're just looking at the name on the chest.
Yeah,
that's
a great point. Great point. One thing I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about West Virginia that I don't want to get lost in this whole conversation is the recruiting aspect of last night. There were a lot of recruits at that game last night watching, and you don't think that atmosphere from last night is going to help land a recruit or 2 or 3 or
we actually had several. One commit earlier.
Yeah, a 2025 kid, Tyshawn Dews. He's a West Virginia native. He's a wide receiver from is it Hurricane High School, Paul? I can't remember the school he goes to.
I can't remember, but he has several group of 5 offers already a couple years out, so he'll only get better.
Yeah, I think
I just saw the headline before I came on and talked to you.
I'm going to look again because Hurricane. Yep, and I may actually get to see him play later this year potentially. My hometown school plays Hurricane this year. I'm not sure if it's home or away, but if I see the game, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on him to see how he plays. But he's a 5'8", 150-pound receiver right now, but he's only a junior in high school, so he's going to get bigger, you know, and he can hit the weight room. But there were also basketball recruits there too, by the way. Let's not forget that. Josh Eiler had some basketball recruits in for that game. And the football recruits got to go in the locker room last night and watch the celebration too. If you guys haven't had a chance, West Virginia football put a video up of the post-game celebration. I can't understand a word they're saying hardly, or what Neil Brown said, but man, they were having a good time. It was so good to see those guys getting to celebrate together and to see Coach Brown and the team, you know, and how they care for each other. I love watching those kind of videos, you know.
Me too.
It's kind of a peek on the inside, and we don't get that very often. Nope. And there was also a post they put up. I got to find this one. This one was funny. That's why I just don't think Shane Lyons would have done stuff like this. That's why I love Ren Baker so much. Let me find it. Hold on. It said something about Yinzers or Yins. It was hilarious. It says, "Hope Yins had fun last night," and it shows a Pitt player laying on the ground. and Trey Lathan standing over top of him.
That's awesome. He's been a pleasant surprise.
He has been. This is something, and I know a lot of the anti-Neil Brown people, and I'm not saying, verdict's still out for this season, obviously, but I don't think people understand how good this team has the potential to be in the future. If he's able to keep this group together, we have a lot of young talent on this team. You look at Nicco, Rodney Gallagher,
Where was
Traylon Ray? He played a couple snaps. I don't know. He didn't get targeted any. But you got Traylon Ray, you got Jaheim White, you got DJ Oliver, you got Trey Lathan, you got Jacoby Spells, assuming he's going to be. I don't know what's happened to him, but we talked about him earlier. Yeah, James Hurd, Josiah Trotter will be back. Ben Cutter,
Patorma Mulba,
Asani Redwood, Omiwa Durazier. I mean, just go down the list, man.
AJ Jackson continues to get overlooked as one of the best developmental players. He's got to be the second best guy on the team, right? As far as you look at Chad Scott, number one, the running back room, Andrew Jackson's got to be second as far as developing talent. Look at the defensive line now, 4 years in a row.
Yeah, and I actually saw a list the other day where he's like one of the up and coming young coaches in America.
I don't see how we keep him again another year.
We'll be lucky. Yeah, he'll be a tough one to keep. He'll be a tough one to keep. Any update on Greene? No, not yet, Mark. The only thing we've heard so far that Paul mentioned earlier was they think it's going to be at least a one-game injury with the potential it could be longer. They don't really know. We hope to know more tomorrow during Neil Brown's press conference, if he even talks about it. He may want to keep it close to the vest. I don't know.
Right. Really, it's Neil Brown. I'll be shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Make them prepare for both.
Right. Well, guys, I don't have a whole lot left to talk about. Paul, you got any last thing you want to say?
Nope. Did you give the sponsor a shout out?
I did not, but I'll do that right now. Don't forget our sponsor, guys, is for those of you who are wondering, is Dutch Miller Automotive. They have locations throughout the whole state of West Virginia. They even got locations in Virginia. They have locations in I think they have one in El Dorado, Kansas. They have one in Bristol, Tennessee. So they've got locations in various. But you can find them just about anywhere in West Virginia throughout the entire state. But to give them a quick plug, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. Paul, thanks for the reminder, man. Sometimes when I go live, I forget about it because it's just not part of my routine. I got a routine when I'm editing, and it's I always throw that in. So thanks for that reminder. But anyway, guys, if you guys got any more comments you want to throw my way, this is your last opportunity to throw a super chat in there if you want. If you want to make sure it gets highlighted. And yeah, please don't. Thank you, Silver Mark. Please be sure to give a thumbs up. Like the video. Thank you, John Cunningham, for stopping in. Thank you to Alan. Thank you to AMAC. All the people who stopped in. I don't want to name everybody because I'll leave somebody out, but I appreciate everybody stopping in today. Don't forget, guys, if you want to near you. Yeah, that's right, Jace, near you. If you want to support me here, support the work I'm doing here, you can always join the channel, become a member, VIP level member, whether it be a club level or a pub level member. All you have to do is hit that join button below, and you can always make a one-time donation as well with the super thanks button, super chat button, or checking out Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App, which I typically stick in the description box. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Dutch Miller Automotive, for your next automotive purchase, whether it be service or whether it be you need just ready to purchase a new vehicle or a used vehicle for that matter. Guys, thanks again. Paul, thank you for hopping on here with me, man. It's always a lot easier when I have somebody to conversate with, and to be honest, it makes it more fun.
Right.
You know, because you and I can chop it up with the best of them. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in to this live stream. Be on the lookout for my Texas Tech preview shows. I'm supposed to have the guys from Gambling Gauchos on to preview it with me. Hopefully around the middle of the week. So be on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, I'm out. And don't forget to cue Country Roads.